The generating capacity of renewable energy in the U.S. has surpassed coal for the first time in 2022. House Republicans have passed an energy package designed to encourage the mining and development of domestic fossil fuel energy sources. And a new study from the International Renewable Energy Agency says that if we're to meet the global goals set out by the Paris Agreement, then we will have to quadruple the investment in renewable energy by the year 2030. I'm Jay Warmke with Blue Rock Station, and this is the news from the solar industry for the week of April 3rd. So we have a bit of contradictory news here this week. For example, EIA, the Energy Information Agency, has released data that shows that for the first time in 2022, renewable energy surpassed the generating capacity of coal on the U.S. grid. Now, this follows shortly after in 2020, renewable energy surpassed nuclear energy as a generating source. So currently, wind and solar account for about 14% of the power that's on the grid, hydro about 6%, the other forms such as geothermal and biofuels account for another 3%. So renewable share of the U.S. grid is around 26% in generating capacity. Coal is now down to about 20%, nuclear down to about 18%. But of course, the number one generating source still on the grid is natural gas at about 40% of the generating capacity on the grid. The U.S. House of Representatives passed House Bill number 1 last Thursday, dubbed the Lower Energy Cost Act. There were 4 Democrats who voted in favor of this. 1 Republican voted against, so it's basically a party line vote. What this bill will do will provide greater access to public lands for mining and for drilling. It will also ease a lot of the permits that are in place to do the mining and drilling, and it repeals methane emission costs that are associated or that are imposed on producers that were incorporated in the Inflation Reduction Act last year. Now, this will go on to the Senate at this point, which Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says dead on arrival, so I wouldn't anticipate any action in the near term on this particular bill. The North Carolina Utilities Commission has changed that state's net metering laws. Now, it's kind of a give and take in this regard. They're adding $10 a month to those bills that have solar installed on their property. They're moving to a time of use billing structure rather than having a flat charge for all energy consumed regardless of the time of day. They will have a tiered structure where there's higher costs when it's higher demand, lower costs when it's lower demand. They're lowering the net metering compensation rate. On the other hand, they are putting in a 36-cent per watt incentive package for customers to install solar plus storage devices. But on the whole, studies have shown that this will actually lower compensation to those people who net meter their excess power back to the utility by about 25 to 35%. The largest solar installation in the state of Illinois broke ground recently. Swift Current Energy is the developer of this facility. It's called the Double Black Diamond Project, located near Springfield, Illinois, in central Illinois. Now, this is going to be an 800 megawatt project consisting of about 1.6 million solar panels, so a huge project, falling over 2 different counties within that state. It will begin operation in the fall of 2024, at least that's the schedule. It is intended to, or they anticipate they will employ about 435 installers on this project. And the project will bring about $100 million in tax revenue per year to Sangamon and Morgan counties within Illinois. And a new analysis by the International Renewable Energy Agency, or IREA, has said that in order to meet the 1.5 Celsius degree global warming target that was part of the Paris Agreement, that the world must deploy about 1,000 gigawatts of renewable energy each year up until 2030. Now, just as a matter of perspective, currently there are about 3,000 gigawatts installed. So about 1/3 of the entire capacity that exists today will need to be installed every year to meet these targets. Now, currently the world pays about $1.3 trillion in renewable energy investments in a year. They're saying this will need to quadruple to about $5 trillion a year, each and every year. Now, just as a sense that how much this has changed, just 5 years ago, they were projecting that they would have to globally invest about $737 million per year in renewables. So we're already seeing 6-7-fold increase in those projections. Now, recent testimony, a number of industry experts have expressed concern that there is no infrastructure in place to provide for the permitting of the transmission systems and the interconnection that's going to have to take place in order for these to be put onto the grid, and that there is no workforce available to do this kind of installation. The demand is there, but the political process, the permitting process, and the workforce are lacking. In fact, the experts have said that the workforce issue is an existential issue. So those are the issues that have to be addressed. Well, that's the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.